Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our reaction and review for The Bear, Season 1, Episode 8. The big finale, which name is something that I can never pronounce correctly, so I'm not even going to try, but man, what a finale. Like, really.
It was so good. Like this episode 7, I was like, "Oh man, this is
Yeah.
this is the episode of the season." And it still is for me, but like this was so on its heels of being like just so intense, so good. These beautiful moments in it, like with Carmi and Richie. I mean, and even seeing Marcus and Sydney have this beautiful friendship that's growing and this amazing respect and the conversations they were having. I just loved this episode. This first season was great.
It is a really classic example of a first season that starts very, very good. Like we've seen a lot
Yeah.
of shows like this, but as they develop, they start to find out more and more of who they are and the stories that they want to tell. And it all kind of culminates in this really wonderful end where you're just sort of like, oh my gosh, this is where this show could go. I'll compare it to the first season of Succession, where you get to the end of the first season of Succession with everything that happens with Kendall, and you're just like, holy crap. This is what the show can be. These last two episodes are just magic. Like they are so well done and so thoughtful and interesting and unique. And it's not that everything before that was bad, but it has just been elevated.
Yeah, I think that it helps that this episode was a lot more emotional and there was a lot more opening up because, following Carmi, he was really closed off for a lot of this. It was very difficult to get close to him as an audience member. He's opened up a lot more, like a lot more in this episode to us, to Richie, a little bit more with Sydney. I mean, it's really come together in a way where it's just like, I'm so all in on him. Like, I just want to see him succeed.
We're gonna get into all of this, including just a moment that emotionally broke me. But before we go further, join our Patreon. We have a link in the description below for that. Every Monday night, we are there discussing The Bear. Also, here at the channel, there is so much going on right now.
Mhm.
Only Murders in the Building. We are right in the thick of that. Ahsoka has started on Disney Plus, so we are also taking that on.
Justified is wrapping up. I mean, that's been a really good season as well. We also have What We Do in the Shadows, few episodes of that left. If you're looking for a good vampire laugh, so
Yeah.
hit that subscribe button.
Okay. I'm just gonna sing Jeremy Allen White's praises now for about 60 seconds.
Yeah, let's do it because, oh my goodness, that monologue at the beginning of this episode, whoo, 10 out of 10.
One of
Took my breath away.
one of just the best monologues I've seen in a really, really long time. We discussed this a little bit on our Patreon live earlier this week, and just like for me, this and Dimbe's monologue in the Blacklist series finale are like the two moments this year in TV that just like really just punched me in the heart and choked me up. And it's the combination of like his performance, the writing of it, him just getting into his grief, his feeling that he didn't understand what his brother was going through, trying to come to terms with all of that while also taking on this restaurant, moving away from his past, and even how he threw himself into all of this in the first place, how it helped him compartmentalize, how he really used it, but kind of in doing that, he also lost a part of himself along the way. There was just so much wrapped into all of this, and I think not all of us are chefs. I'm certainly not a chef, but I think we can all sort of relate to this idea of when we're feeling so much pain, we attach ourselves to something else and attempts to be the best at that one thing so we feel like we're getting something out of this experience. And no matter what we've gone through, we're able to make it through the other side and say something about ourselves.
Yeah, and it was a really good deep dive into how his relationship with his brother had kind of fallen apart and he didn't really understand why, where he was just like, man, we had these plans together to open up a restaurant together, and then all of a sudden I'm getting pushed out of it, and then the more I'm trying to connect with him, the more he's pushing me away, and like I don't know what's going on. And it Could have been that his brother was getting heavier into addiction and didn't want Carmi to be part of it or to see it. We don't know all of what Michael was feeling at that time, but this is Carmi's side of it, where he's
Yeah.
just like, man, the more I'm trying to connect with him, the more he's pushing me away. And, I put myself into being like, oh, you don't want me to be part of the restaurant? I'm going to be the best chef in the world. Like, just so that I can maybe find a way to connect with Michael again, that Michael will see that and be like, good boy, Carmi, and never came sort of thing. That it was just like, by the time we got to the end of this episode where he actually got that letter that we know had been sitting there from Michael to Carmi, that's just like, I love you, let it rip. That it's just like he has that validation that he had been looking for all those years, that connection with him, that Michael did love him and Michael did believe in him, and that it wasn't about Carmi, that it was about something inside of Michael that Carmi just didn't, he didn't want Carmi to be part of or to see, because it was a darkness he felt in himself.
It's such a healing moment. I can't even put it into words how important that was for Carmi, because he spent all this time wondering, what's wrong with me? Why didn't I see this? Why didn't I understand what was going on with Michael? Like, how terrible of a brother am I? And that suffering, I think a lot of it was just alleviated. Just seeing that letter, I think it helped him to acknowledge it's not his fault. He can get through this.
Mm-hmm.
He had the love of his brother, and it dovetails so perfectly into the end of all this. I will give my immediate emotional reaction to, he flips that card over. He sees the recipe for spaghetti.
I
And
know.
I at first thought one of two things. It's either just, one, is he just trolling because he knows how much Carmi hates the idea of serving spaghetti? Two, does he actually still think Carmi is just like a bad chef or something? Because I'm not saying I'm a good chef, as already noted, but I know how to make tomato sauce. I know you get the garlic. I know you get the tomatoes. You get the pot. This is not a hard recipe. And I was just like, what's going on here? Why is he telling him? Why is he saying that the small cans are better? I really did not put it together until we actually saw what was really going on.
No, like, and at first when he opens the cans and pours it out and this money comes out, my first thought was Breaking Bad. I'm like, what is happening here? Like, is this restaurant moving money or moving drugs, or something bigger and deeper is going on here? But I mean, the restaurant is going to have a can sealer. Restaurants all have can sealers. So it looks like he's been kind of putting the money away that he had, been borrowing off of Cicero, because we also saw earlier where Carmi was going through the books and he's like, what is this KBL
Yeah.
Electric? What is this? It equals the same amount of money that he borrowed from Cicero. And then here we have all this money that's been in these cans that, they're so excited about it. I'm just
Yeah.
like, is nobody really kind of wondering where this money is coming from or what this money is? You guys are just like, oh, found money. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, that it's got to be that money.
Yeah, that was my feeling coming out of it, that it had to be that money,
A
and that,
positive money.
yeah, that this is something that Michael was storing away
Yeah.
in the hopes of doing something with down the road, or
Yeah.
if he knew that or if he even knew that he wasn't going to be there, he was going to leave it behind for Carmi. And I think there's something interesting to the idea of, I'm going to put this in plain sight, but when you have really gotten to the point when you're able to connect with me, that's when you're going to be able to find it. Because, this spaghetti, it may not mean something to you, but it really means something to me. And when you're willing to sort of embrace the spaghetti, you will be able to embrace this, and we will be connected.
I will say that it is kind of weird, though, that nobody else found this in all of this time, considering that there was a little bit of a time gap in between where Michael passed away and where Carmi showed up. And they were still making the spaghetti during that time, because when he came back and Richie was like, just make the spaghetti, get the cans, make the spaghetti. I was like, okay, so during those months, nobody else found that while they're making the spaghetti. That was the only part that I was kind of like, I feel like somebody probably would have come across this.
he got really lucky that people were apparently really just committed to using the big cans.
Absolutely.
Because, like, otherwise, if they ever ran out of the big cans, this entire thing would have just fallen apart completely.
Absolutely. But it was nice to get through, especially that last episode that was so chaotic and
Yeah.
so miserable for so many people, that we ended this season with something so uplifting where they were all opening the cans. We saw Sydney come back into the shop where, we had seen a little texting between her and Carmi where he did say, I know I messed up. And she's like, correct. And
Yeah.
she does come back and they have this little exchange where it's like, oh, she's back sort of thing. And everybody's opening all these cans and dumping all this money
Yeah.
and pasta sauce everywhere, tomatoes everywhere.
Yeah.
That we do get to see this last moment of all of them eating together and knowing that they're moving this shop in a brand new direction, that it's no longer going to be the original beef and it is going to be the bear, and it's going to be something that is Carmi's and that he can make it the way that he wants to make it. And Sydney is going to be right there with him.
And Michael is going to be right there with them.
Oh,
Bernthal in the final seconds. That was that really got me. Like, what a great way to end it. That he hasn't been there this whole time in the beef when Carmi has been struggling and figuring it out. But when he's finally inspired, when he finds this money, Michael is finally a real part of it. He is a part of this world. His spirit gets to live on, and that to me is so meaningful. And good on Bernthal too, to just be willing to come back to do one more scene where he doesn't say anything. He's on camera for like 3 seconds. Like, you're a big name actor, you're the Punisher, and you came back and you're willing to do that. It was just such an effective sort of healing way to end it. And this is going to be a really hot take, but I'm going to just say it.
All right.
I know there's a season 2, but if there wasn't a season 2, this would have been a really good ending for the show. Because we would have known that, okay, Carmi's gotten something out of this. He's moving to a next chapter. Everybody has a chance to kind of just move forward and find a sense of healing.
Absolutely. I mean, he still has to pay all that money back that he found to Cicero, but I mean, I think he believes in himself and he believes in the staff enough that they're going to be able to get that money back. It's going to be a long haul. We've all watched Kitchen Nightmares and we know how much money it costs to run a restaurant and to even rebrand it. I mean, because he's basically starting from, the ground floor with, I'm assuming all new food, new menu, new way of doing things, new place, that the regulars are going to have to adapt to it, which always seems to be kind of an interesting part of Kitchen Nightmares too, where it's like, you still have your regulars that actually like what you're doing, and then you change it over and you lose those people. Now you have to find brand new everybody.
It is a big monumental challenge. Like, it's a part of what I'm most excited to see in season 2. Like, how do you build a new community around your restaurant, especially if it's more expensive, if it's a different sort of dining experience, if it's harder to get in and out, whatever it is. I mean, I will say a part of what makes this interesting is whether it was consciously or subconsciously, Carmi's been building towards this for a while with the beef already, because we've already had Sydney making this risotto dish, which, as we've went into in our other videos, you don't serve risotto at a sandwich shop. That doesn't make any sense. I still don't know if donuts make a lot of sense in fine dining or whatever the bear is going to turn into, but hey, look at you, Marcus, you're doing something different now.
Absolutely. And Marcus's story was really great in this too. I mean, we saw everything work out with Carmi and him, where there was, an apology, an accepted apology, and that they're able to sort of move forward from that. But it was really great seeing Marcus and Sydney sharing a dinner together, talking about food, talking about their experiences with food, that they're both sort of at the beginnings of their careers. They're both in the same sort of spot where they're just like, yeah, we each feel that we have a talent with things. And, I ate your donut off the floor. It was great, that sort of thing. He's just like, oh, wow. Okay. But that there's a real commonality there where they are both extremely talented, hungry to learn, and they both have a lot of respect for Carmi as a chef. And they're really both thankful to be under him learning.
And I think they're both very grateful that he has shown an element of remorse for
Yes, he
everything that
has.
happened, and because of that, they're able to move forward. Is it going to be easy all the time? No, because
No.
Carmi is still a very temperamental person who clearly has a lot of stress and anxiety issues that he's going to have to work out when he is in this kitchen, especially when these people are not trained right away to do whatever it is that they're going to be doing.
Yep.
There might be new people who they have to bring in. Like there are all these different challenges coming up.
Okay, let's talk about Richie. We're 15 minutes
Oh
in,
boy.
man. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we saw them have this bachelor party that went sideways where Richie ended up knocking someone right out, which is, can be a pretty serious charge. Like for all you Jersey Shore people out there, you remember that episode that happened with Ronnie, and Ronnie was facing the same thing. He knocked someone out cold, where if they don't wake up,
Yeah.
it's a really big problem, like a rest of your life kind of problem. So we had Richie sitting in jail waiting to find out, did the kid wake up? Yeah, he did. Okay, you're bailed. Who bailed you out? Carmi. How did we afford it? I took our 2-week float and, I got you out of here. And it really touches Richie in this way where he realizes that he can let go of Michael in a way because he now has that same sort of bond with Carmi. And it was a real turning point for him with them sitting in the car where he's really getting choked up, where he really realizes he's not alone in this. He has Carmi. Carmi is willing to give him the float for the shop, which is the only thing that's really keeping them going, to make sure that he can get out of jail and that he's okay. And it's the moment as well where you see Carmi also realize that he has Richie in a way that he didn't realize he really does.
These two, their relationship is just so good and so layered and so interesting. Even the way that the word cousin was said in the discussion in this episode, it felt so much different and more meaningful than when we heard cousin earlier on in the show. Like, I will say from the start, you gotta veto this bachelor party idea. Like, this is terrible. No, there's no way
They're desperate for money.
you are desperate for money. There was no way this was going to end good. I will just put it that way. I did not expect that it was going to end with Richie having to knock someone out, but I will say that the moment I heard, "Oh, we're having a bachelor party in here," I was just like, "Okay,
Uh-oh.
yeah, I hope this is not a repeat of what happened in episode 7, but this is going to end in a disaster." I did not see it going to this extreme, but at the same time, if this is the extreme that it took to get Richie fully on board with Carmi and they can kind of move forward in this together, because Richie, it's kind of been established that he does a lot of like front of the house stuff
Mhm.
at the original Beef. Like that's something that they're going to need more than ever at the Bear if they're really going to evolve all of this.
Absolutely. I mean, he really knows how to work a front counter. He really
Yeah.
knows how to work the community. He's extremely social with people.
Yeah.
They need him. He's extremely valuable that way.
I love Richie as a character. I really hope we get some good stuff with him now moving into this next season.
And I was so glad to see that after that moment in the car when he really was like, Carmi's here for me. Like, I can move forward with everything that happened with Michael because me and Carmi we're together. We're gonna
Yeah.
make this work. And we have that type of relationship now. That he was then able to pull out that letter from Michael and give it to him and just be like, here it is. And this was such an important healing moment for Carmi. Like these two,
Yeah.
they were always had a really good relationship. I mean, Richie's been around forever. They've had a relationship, but their relationship has changed in a way that has bonded them together forever.
I really like that they didn't go in a direction where Carmi was just like super mad at Richie for not giving him this letter right away. I was really worried about that.
I was worried too.
But I think at the end of the day, Carmi understood. Like, I think he sort of recognized, okay, you weren't in a place to do this. I'm glad you're in this place now. And at the end of the day, I get to have something that I really need. And that is the thing that matters the most to me.
Excellent first season. Excellent end of the season.
Yeah.
I cannot wait for season 2 because you guys have all said that season 2 is even better than season 1, and I don't know how that's possible. But we gonna see.
I'm really excited to find out. Like, really, really excited. I'm also just really excited that we don't have to wait a full year. Like all you
I
people who watch
know.
season 1 in real time, I my heart goes out to you because I'm just really glad that we don't have to do that.
Yeah.
We'll have to do that after season 2. All right, no, but thank you guys so much for watching this season with us. Join our Patreon. We got a link in the description below. Monday night live streams. We're talking about the bear. Thank you so much to all our patrons. We'll see you here next time.